What's good, folks? Welcome to the Afterthought here, and then this is just my thoughts after the whole release of Dez Bryant from the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, it's true. He is no longer with the Dallas Cowboys organization. He was released just this week. And so this is just my thoughts. I'm giving time to let everything clear up. And he's obviously, has some tension between him and Dak Prescott. Because it's been reported that these two haven't liked each other for a while. Okay, just from like last season when Romo was released, Dak and Dez haven't necessarily been clicking, quite frankly, because Dez feel that Dak doesn't give him the ball enough like Tony Romo does. But what people don't understand is that Tony Romo and Dak Prescott are two different quarterbacks. These two, Romo's style of play was different from Dak. But I'm gonna get to that in a little bit. But before I get to that, I'm just gonna give you the lowdown as of now. The Cowboys released Dez Bryant on the fact that his contract would have owed $12.5 million. They're $12.5 million in the hole, and as far as cap space, the Cowboys just didn't have enough money to continue to have Dez Bryant on the field anymore. They tried to get him to take a pay cut. He had already told them ahead of time, or he had already established that he was going to take a pay cut. And see, what people don't remember, that Dez didn't even take a pay cut back then. Back in, I think, the 2012-2013 season when we had to re-sign him, he refused to take a pay cut. I remember Skip Bayless, when he was still on First Take, him and Stephen A. Smith, they did a story on that, where Dez says, "Oh, don't question my loyalty. I love being a Cowboys," but he didn't take a pay cut back then. So Jerry Jones was forced to have to pay the man. Now, Jerry Jones always loved Dez Bryant. To Jerry Jones' eyes, he reminded him of a young Michael Irvin. Even though I still don't understand why Dez had the 88 number, why they gave Dez that number. I feel that 88 number should be retired as a Cowboy because it's Michael Irvin's number. Michael Irvin was legendary. Michael Irvin helped this organization win 3 Super Bowl titles. So that 88 number, I feel when Michael Irvin went to Hall of Fame, Dez should have just hung that jersey up and chose a different number. Maybe that's part of the reason what was wrong with Dez, because too much was they had too much on him, too much respect of him. You wearing the jersey number, having to fill the shoes of Michael Irvin, that was just too big of a shoes to fill. Especially since Dez Bryant has been on the Cowboys still have not made it out the second round. They haven't made it to a single NFC Championship game in years. It's been going on at least about 22 years since not the 1995 season, since Michael Irvin was last there. But still, Dez is, for the most part, he's been great. Like, his Cowboy numbers will forever be recorded. He's definitely amongst the top performing receivers that the Cowboys have ever had. So I give Dez that credit. But for the last 2 seasons, Dez Bryant has basically took a hit as far as stat-wise. His numbers have not been the same since 2014. And yes, everybody knows that 2014 season was the best Dez Bryant has had in the career from thus far since until then. You all remember that catch that the refs ruled incomplete at Lambeau Field? Okay, I think that's when Dez had, 125,000 some receiving yards and over like 20 some receptions. He had, that was the last time he was beasted. But since then, remember 2015, the Cowboys tanked with Romo's injury. They only won 5 games, and even last year, even last season, 9-7. Dez just wasn't a factor, and partly because of injuries. Because what most people need to understand is that a lot of these football players, especially in the receiver position, they don't have a very long career span. The average career span for a football player is at least 8 to 10 years, and that's depending on how healthy they stay. The only reason why Tom Brady is able to play till he's 40-something, like 41, 42 years old, is because, for one, he's on the New England Patriots that got one of the best offensive lines, and 2, it's Bill Belichick. A lot of his players were able to remain healthy due to a system, but even then, some are not as lucky. Even Gronkowski's basically talking about retirement. But that's Brady. He's a quarterback. It's a different position. But most receivers, it's 8 to 10 years. And everybody can't be Jerry Rice. Everybody's not Tim Brown. Everybody's not Randy Moss. Those guys could play 12 to 13 years because they was at a different time. It was a different league. They were built differently than the football players of today. Jerry Rice was in hella good shape. That's why his career lasted longer than Michael Irvin's. Y'all remember even Michael Irvin had to retire because of that neck injury. So it just all depends on the situation. Some football players are just luckier than others. But Dez has taken a lot of hits already. He's been in this league 8 years since the 2008-2009 season. Yeah, in between 2008 and 2010 was around his draft class. So the man has taken a lot of hits to the body. So he's clearly not that same receiver no more. Even though he's still a top 10, as I read Dez, but the Cowboys knowing his time is pretty much winning thing. And plus, with Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, they're the young guns of the team. They're the future pretty much. Dak and Zeke are pretty much like 23, 24. So I guess what the Cowboys are trying to do, they're trying to establish a completely younger team. Because Dez Bryant basically represents the Cowboys when Tony Romo was there. And to me, man, when I saw Tony Romo retire, I knew that was the end of an era right there for the Cowboy Nation. That was the end of a decade. As good as Tony Romo was, he could never get us past the second round. And the Cowboys have had great squads. Even with Dez Bryant on there, the Cowboys have had at least 10 to 13 wins. But because of the decision making on Tony Romo, who basically plays Russian roulette. See, the reason why Dez Bryant loved Tony Romo so much because Tony Romo will squeeze the ball into Dez Bryant the majority of the time. Either Dez or Jason Witten would be his main two targets. Cole Beasley every now and then, but Cole Beasley don't get the ball as much. It's always Dez. Even when Dez is not open, he gets picked off. He still tries to get the ball to Dez. But when Dak Prescott came in here, which I'm not going to get to, see, Dak Prescott tends to play the field smarter. He's a different quarterback than Tony Romo. Like, Dak Prescott represents the new generation of quarterbacks. They're built differently. So Dak is going to basically get the ball to everybody. He only want to just focus on just one receiver. Because oftentimes when you just focus on one receiver, you tend to set yourself up for failure because the defense is able to reach you. They're able to pick it off. So for y'all wondering why Tony Romo always, had the most interceptions, always turned the ball over, had games where he had a disappointing finish because he kept focusing on one receiver. And that's either Dez Bryant or it's Jason Witten. Y'all could go back to the season where we went 8-8 from 2010, 2012, 2011. Okay, look at those seasons where we went 8-8. Why did we go 8-8? It's because of Tony Romo kept, not looking at the entire field. He kept trying to rely on one guy. It was either Dez Bryant or it was Jason Witten. And Tony Romo would take his chances. And I understand, Dez, when Dez was in like 5-6 years ago, he was, that guy, he was a deep threat. He had the hops, he had the ability, but since Dez has been taking a lot of injuries, a lot of hits to the knees and legs, he don't have that same release anymore. But no, Tony Romo was just taking his chances with Dez Bryant. And yeah, it'll win him some of the games. But against teams like the Giants, against the Green Bay Packers in the regular season, even against teams like the Baltimore Ravens that had a good, like a top 5 defense, Tony Romo gets picked off every time because the defense knew he was going to Dez Bryant's side. So what the corners will do, they'll put hands on Dez, they'll jam him, but then the safeties or the linebackers will cover off of it. They know which side Romo was going to throw to. They know Dez was going to either throw an in route or a deep post. They knew where he was going. And yeah, I admit it, Dez is one of the best one-on-one receivers, but against a good DB, against someone like Richard Sherman, he was in trouble. Even then, the Cowboys could never defeat the Seattle Seahawks because of Richard Sherman's, ability and size was able to put a good hands on Dez Bryant. And if that didn't work, you had Cam Chancellor or you had Earl Thomas. But Dak Prescott, totally different beast. Dak Prescott tends to get the ball to everybody. This is why Trenton Williams and Cole Beasley have gotten more touches. Lucky Whitehead, before he got suspended, had more touches. Okay, Dak Prescott wants to get the ball to everybody. He don't just want to focus on one guy. But Dez Bryant didn't understand that. That's why him and Dak would often get into arguments on the sidelines. If y'all go back at last season and look at some of these games, you constantly see Dez Bryant in a competition with somebody. If it's not Dak, it's a lineman. If it's not a lineman, it's a DB. It was somebody. But quite frankly, Dak. Those guys had tension all throughout the locker rooms. So the other reason why I believe Jerry Jones and Steven decided to cut Dez, because Dez might have said something smart about Dak Prescott in the meeting that they didn't like. Dez probably told him, I don't like the fact that Dak is not giving me the ball. He's not passing that good at all. He's not the type of quarterback that I'm used to. I like the better in Tony Romo, but y'all got to understand, Tony Romo had to go because of his injuries. That's why Jerry Jones made his decision. Yeah, originally Jerry Jones wanted Tony Romo to be back last season, but they drafted Dak in the second round. You know what I'm saying? They picked Dak up, excuse me. Yeah, they picked Dak up. Yeah, Dak wasn't necessarily a first rounder, but they still drafted him anyway to be the project quarterback. Originally, Dak wasn't even supposed to be having playing time right now. It's supposed to be Romo, but Romo, once again, had a shoulder injury. And see, they was going to keep Tony Romo on there. He keeps getting hurt. Notice, every time Tony Romo would get injured, whether it be his shoulder injury, you know what I'm saying, like a concussion or anything like of that matter, the Cowboys would suffer because the backup quarterbacks wasn't as good. Dak basically proved to be the quarterback they need for the future. But because Dak Prescott wasn't throwing the ball the way Tony Romo would throw it, Dak would have a problem with complain often. Even in Dak's rookie year. Remember, the Cowboys in Dak's rookie year did win 12 games. They were literally the number 2 team behind New England. New England won 13 games. They won 12. And the only team they lost to was the Giants, quite frankly, because the Giants had the right kind of defense. Now, you had Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie putting hands on Dak. They was able to the Giants safeties and their defense was able to defend against the Cowboys. That's why. And still, the game was still close. They wasn't blown out. It was a close game, but Dak wasn't. I don't remember Dez making any touchdowns or hardly any receptions in those games, quite frankly, because Dak could not get open. He couldn't find him open at all. And Dak even clearly stated, "I will throw to him when he's open." But that's just why, man. Dez has complained far enough about Dak Prescott, and Jerry Jones just wasn't having it. Because remember, man, Jerry Jones finally decided to choose Dak over Tony Romo. Tony Romo just had to retire. He was just too. He was 36, 37 years old with just way too many injuries. How do you get injured in preseason? That's another thing. When I saw Tony Romo get injured in preseason 2 years ago, and I you know what I'm saying, against the Seattle Seahawks, I knew it was over. The man had just came back from injury, missing most of the 2015 season. Here, the 2015, 2016 season, coming in preseason, now you hurt again. I knew it was over then. So, no, they had to make a business decision. Tony Romo bowed out gracefully and gave the team to Dak. And even then, Tony Romo was still helping Dak on the sidelines. No, it's just the problem with Dez. Dez is just, he doesn't want to do what's best for the team. And they told him, man, let's take a pay cut. The Cowboys wanted Dez Bryant to take a pay cut because the Cowboys got tired of being in the hole in salary cap. Because for the last 4 or 5 seasons, the Cowboys, if you notice, they've been in the hole. They've had to been owed a lot of money because they've been used up too much of their salary cap. They've exceeded the salary cap at least 3 times. This is why they wasn't able to bring in no big free agents. They wasn't able to bring in another Kasu. They wasn't able to bring in a Aqib Talib. And even now, they have trouble bringing in Earl Thomas because the Seattle Seahawks are going to want a whole lot of draft picks the Cowboys aren't willing to give up right now. The Cowboys are in a position where they need all of their first-round draft picks, just like Philadelphia did. If y'all want to know why the Eagles had such an easy time going to the Super Bowl and going on a run, why? Because most of that team is full of first-round draft picks. Remember, when Carson Wentz came on there his rookie season, the Eagles did tank. Doug Peterson was only able to win 6 games. I think it was like 5 games out that season. But they tanked purposely so they could get more draft picks, which helped out a lot. That helped Carson Wentz out a lot offensively. And they were able to make a trade for Miami to get the running back they got now, which helped LeGarrette Blount out a whole lot. Even in Darren Sproles, okay? And I'm happy that Darren Sproles finally got a ring, but he was injured. So they was able to get good backups with Jay Ajayi. So that's why the Eagles are where they are now, because those to the defense and offensively, they're full of first-round draft picks. They only got maybe 6 veterans, but 5 other veterans besides Malcolm Jenkins that's been there a long time. But other than that, most of that the Eagle team is young. They got a young nucleus, a young core. But those a lot of first-round draft picks they have and picked up thanks to Doug Peterson and the new GM. So this is why the Eagles were able to have a good season. And this is what the Cowboys are trying to do. And like I told you, man, Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, they are the future. Okay? Dez Bryant is pretty much being phased out. So this is why the Cowboys decided to make the decision they made too, because Dez Bryant just not fitting in with this offense Dak is running. And see, unlike Tony Romo, Dak can actually use his legs to beat you too. They can run a couple of option plays here and there to work in for Dak. But Dak is mostly, if he throws the ball, if you really watch Dak Prescott, he's looking for the next open receiver. He's not going to just squeeze the ball in there like Tony Romo does. And if Dak does get picked off, it's because either receiver, you didn't get to a spot you're supposed to be at, or he just didn't throw it far enough. He didn't throw it correctly. But Dak doesn't have as many interceptions as Tony Romo does. Tony Romo had at least about like 9 or 10 interceptions in one season. Or it might have been more than that, because he was getting picked off at least 2 or 3 times a game. Quite frankly, trying to look for Dez Bryant to get open. And I understand Tony Romo was gunslinger. I'm not taking nothing from Tony Romo. He was one of the great regular season quarterbacks the Cowboys had. I just cannot put him above Troy Aikman and Roger Staubach. I don't know why these Tony Romo loving fans put him above Troy Aikman and Roger Staubach when both of those guys won rings. Aikman and Staubach both won Super Bowls. They both, I think Staubach won 2 and Tony Romo won 3. Romo hasn't even got a team out the second round. I can't put him above that. And yeah, Dez Bryant was good, but still, Dez Bryant wasn't a leader enough. He wasn't carrying the team. He's not like Jerry Rice. See, Jerry Rice was able to carry the 49ers. Because remember, the 49ers running game wasn't all that good. I mean, yeah, Ricky Watters was a great running back for his time, but there was a certain time when Ricky Watters did leave and go to Philadelphia. Okay, so the other running back they had, Derek Lavelle, he wasn't no Ricky Watters. But because Jerry Rice's ability to get open on the field, his ability to create spacing for himself, because of Jerry Rice's speed and his hard work ethic, he was able to help Steve Young and Elvis Garback get the 49ers decent wins. So even when they didn't win the Super Bowl, they were still in the playoffs. Quite frankly, because Jerry Rice is that good of a receiver. He's able to carry his team. Same thing with Antonio Brown. And I'll say Antonio Brown is the far better receiver than Dez Bryant. There's no other question. Antonio Brown has been an MVP finalist for at least 2 seasons in a row now. He's been a top candidate behind Tom Brady, Matt Ryan. Because I remember when the season Matt Ryan won it, Antonio Brown was up there. Why? Because Antonio Brown makes it easier on his offense. He's making it easier for Ben Roethlisberger to get him open. Antonio Brown knows how to play with the defense. He knows how to get within the defense and break them down. He knows how to create spacing for himself and catch the ball. Dez is not Antonio Brown. You know, I still rate, to me, Dez Bryant is still, I say number 6 or 7. Yeah, 6 or 7. I say he's still a top 10 receiver in the league. I'm not going to take nothing from him, but he fell off the last couple of seasons. And plus, the Cowboys just brought in Alec Hearn. For those who don't know who Alec Hearn is, if you watch the Jacksonville Jaguars, Alec Hearn was the top receiver, or at least the number 2 receiver, one of the leading receivers on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Alec Hearn was one of the fastest players in his draft class. If y'all watched the Scout Combine from 2015, it might have been 2015 or 2016, he was literally, guy was running out there, I believe, a 4.4 or 4.43 or 4.3. Guy has top speed. He's one of the main reasons, one of the key pieces to the offense that helped Blake Bortles get the season he had. Blake Bortles was averaging 300 yards thanks to Alec Hearn. And to me, Alec Hearn is pretty much Dez Bryant's replacement. And plus, Alec Hearn is young. He still has plenty of time left. Alec Hearn just now is starting to reach his peak. Dez Bryant peak has already happened already. Dez Bryant has already been into his prime. But this is why the Cowboys reached Dez Bryant. Plus, they don't want another headache. Dez Bryant, if you notice, he's starting to act like Terrell Owens. Remember, Terrell Owens was a problem on the sideline because Terrell Owens was another one of those type of players. If he can't get his way, if he's having a bad day, he's going to take it out on the team. That's why it was too much of a circus between him and Tony Romo. Because even Terrell Owens was getting into it with somebody. Even the offensive line, he was a problem for them. A headache for the offensive line, for the other coaches. Because I ain't gonna lie though, man. As good as Terrell Owens was, he was hard to coach. Even his time with the Philadelphia Eagles, why him and Donovan McNabb didn't get along, because Terrell Owens was often having arguments. When things didn't go his way, he have a problem. He's taking it out on the quarterback, out on the entire team and the coach. So Andy Reid got sick of him. Yeah, I mean, he helped. Even then, man, Terrell Owens was injured. He wasn't really all that much of a factor. He was hurt for most of the playoffs. The Eagles got there with basically the team they had before Terrell Owens came on there. Yeah, Owens made a difference for Philadelphia, but still, McNabb was still a great quarterback. You had Brian Westbrook, Brian Dawkins, Troy Vincent. They still had a stacked up team. But yeah, I mean, I don't get me wrong now. I'm not taking nothing from Dez's talent, but he is starting to lose a step or two. But of course, Dez Bryant is the type of player. He's going to want all his money. He's not going to take a pay cut for nobody. So that's the problem with the Cowboys. I believe the Cowboys told him, take a pay cut, do what's best for the team, take a pay cut, because the Cowboys want to get another free agent. Like I said, they want to get Earl Thomas. They want to sign more guys, but they can't do that because Dez Bryant is going to want all his money. And a player of Dez Bryant's caliber, you're going to have to pay him at least over $15 million. If not 20 or $30 million. And plus, Dez Bryant to see the money Richard Sherman got. I'll tell you, a lot of these free agents, like the 49ers, have been giving up money bags. Garoppolo signed the biggest contract. And when I'm mistaken, Garoppolo signed over $150 million, almost $200 million down there. And now you got, Garoppolo signed, I think, over 20-something million. At least over $100 million. Now you got Richard Sherman signing a contract for $39 million. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, I might be just over-exaggerating those numbers, but San Francisco paid a pretty penny to basically give Jimmy Garoppolo a big contract and to get Richard Sherman down there. And plus, Dez Bryant is signed to Rock Nation. Okay, he's one of Jay-Z's athletes. And if you're under Jay-Z, he's going to make sure you get paid. He's going to make sure you get paid the highest contract. That's partly why Jay-Z was a Cowboy fan, because of Dez Bryant. But knowing Jay-Z, and this is where I think Dez Bryant is going to go, to be honest. Now, shouts out to Chronicles of Judah. I'm a subscriber to his page. The man, he's one of the only few good YouTubers I'll subscribe, because the man definitely knows what he's talking about. I may not believe it with him on half the stuff he says when he talks about the Brotherhood of Pan and all that other conspiracy stuff, but he really knows a good thing about sports. Now, Chronicles of Judah pointed out that he might sign with the New York Giants from leaving the Cowboys, because Dez definitely wants revenge. He's not happy about this at all. But at the end of the day, I know for me being a true fan and knowing what it is, it was a business decision. I told y'all, man, the Cowboys can't afford to keep paying Dez Bryant these top contracts. They had to make him take a pay cut. They need to look towards the future. They got to go younger. So the thing with the New York Giants, he'll make the Giants offense scary. It'll be him, Brandon Marshall, and ODB. But at the same time, too, do you really want that headache? Because the problem with the Giants right now, they're dealing with Odell Beckham Jr.'s problem with weed. Odell Beckham Jr., for a lot of y'all seen recently, he's been getting in trouble with the media because he's had pictures of him with a blunt in his hand. Odell Beckham Jr. is another player is very hard-headed. Okay, it can get hard to coach him sometimes because he's a character. So the Giants are already dealing with Odell Beckham Jr. Now with Dez Bryant, they're willing to work with him. Like I said, make him scary. But for Eli Manning, Eli Manning's another football player who's had a down season. Eli Manning hasn't done nothing in the last 5 years anyway. And plus, the Giants don't have an offensive line right now. So knowing the New York Giants, they're going to focus on the offensive line, definitely. No, that's the thing. I think that's what the Giants is. The Giants are going to be basically investing in. If the Giants do find a free agent, they got to get more offensive line because Eli Manning has no protection at all. And this is why the Giants receiver core wasn't clicking at all. They had a bad season because the line could not protect them from the linebackers. The defensive lines basically ran through the Giants. So basically, Giants have a whole lot of rebuilding to do. Yeah, Dez Bryant would make the team interesting. It would make them scary offensively, but do they have the offensive line to give Eli Manning enough time to get the ball to Dez? And plus, two, how would him and Odell Beckham Jr. even get along? That's another thing. Okay, I understand they're friends on the field, but you got to give these two equal amount of touches. So that'll be the only problem is chemistry-wise, how would they blend? Even though I think Dez and Odell Beckham Jr., ODB, would make a great pair. And you got Brandon Marshall, but even then, Brandon Marshall don't want Dez Bryant on there anyway, though. That's the other problem, too. Yeah, they also got Leo Shepard, but Brandon Marshall has already openly stated, and you can look this on the internet, he don't want Dez Bryant coming to the New York Giants. Why? Because Brandon Marshall won't be that guy no more. Him and Dez will be fighting over that number 2 spot. And plus, Brandon Marshall's a top receiver. Is another receiver you got to pay him his money. Even though Brandon Marshall clearly, to me, man, he's clearly done. Like, he's not been the same since. I'm not going to lie, though. Brandon Marshall's also been plagued with injuries. Still, man, Brandon Marshall has been signed to a big contract as well. So that's the only problem with the Giants. Giants have other needs that have to be filled. Plus, they got to look for a running back. They don't have a decent running game at all. The Giants will be looking to draft that Penn State running back. But even then, man, the Giants need an offensive line more than anything. They need to do what the Cowboys did and draft more offensive linemen. So that's the only problem with Dez going to the Giants, because the Giants You know what I'm saying? As far as money, they're going to spend on getting offensive lineman free agency. Now, the only other spot I see him basically going is to watch the Redskins with Alex Smith. Because at least Alex Smith has had a better season than Eli Manning the past 5 years. Remember, Eli Manning hasn't really done much since 2 years ago. And yeah, Eli Manning had a good season with Ben McAdoo, but even then, look what happened to Ben McAdoo now. He got fired last season. And plus, the Giants got blown out in the playoffs. So that's the problem. But as far as Alex Smith goes, even though Alex Smith don't have a ring like Eli Manning does, has had a better season. Alex Smith's career numbers is much higher than Eli Manning's, like far better. Okay, so this is why the Redskins didn't mind paying Alex Smith, because he's a far better quarterback than Kirk Cousins. So I think with Dez Bryant, Alex Smith may be a better quarterback. Just truth be told. And plus, the Redskins' offensive line is actually better than the New York Giants. The Redskins don't quite have the problems that the Giants have right now. All the Redskins need is more offensive receivers like Dez Bryant, actually. I think the Redskins need a running back, but they need more receiver core. That's the problem the Redskins are lacking. They need a receiver. They got the quarterback they need. I'll take Alex Smith over Kirk Cousins any day. And like I told y'all, man, like Alex Smith, if you compare his stats to Eli Manning's over the past 5 years, he's been the better quarterback. Not as far as career-wise, no. Eli Manning's still better than Alex Smith because he has 2 rings, but still, as far as stat-wise, Alex Smith is the better quarterback. I say if Dez Bryant since Dez Bryant wants his money, I say go to Washington Redskins. And then you have him and Josh Norman over there. So that's the only other place I see Dez Bryant honestly going since he wants to stay in the division. Yeah, he's thinking about going to the Giants, but the Giants, like I told you, they got other needs that needs to be filled. Quite frankly, with the offensive line. But the Redskins got money right now, and they got cap space. Plus, Dez Bryant gives them the star receiver they need since they lost D-Jack. Because remember, Deshaun Jackson decided to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He decided to leave the Washington Redskins and go to the Buccaneers because the Buccaneers offered them more money. So I think, I guess Dez will give you that star receiver that they're looking for. And maybe that'd be good for Alex Smith. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that'd be better for him. Like, that's all the Redskins need is some more receivers. Because that's been the problem with the Redskins too. The Redskins have been lacking the ability to score, to keep themselves in the game because there's not enough talent. They got younger guys. They don't got enough older guys. So Dez gives them the veteran receiver they needed. And Dez can pretty much mentor that younger receiver core they got. Because like I said, the Washington Redskins actually don't got a bad team either. They're another potential team that Jay Gruden. Excuse me. I stand corrected. Jay Gruden. You know, Jay Gruden basically has a nice young core. All he needs is more offensive help. And we'll see what his brother John does with the Raiders. And even then, the Raiders, speaking of Dez could pretty much go to the Raiders right now. If you Dez Bryant, why don't you have Jay-Z try to send you to the Raiders? I could actually see Dez Bryant going over there with John Gruden and with Jordy Nelson. I think Jordy Nelson and Dez Bryant be interested with the Raiders. Okay, if you don't want to join Jay Gruden, why not pay for his older brother John? So I believe John Gruden would love to have Dez Bryant. If Dez Bryant goes to the Raiders, that would definitely give the Raiders exactly what they need offensively. He'll be a perfect replacement for Michael Crabtree since they both around. I think Michael Crabtree's about 1 or 2 years older than Dez. Still, Dez is 29. I think him with the Raiders would be really interesting. But Dez wants to stay on the NFC East. He wants to stay in the NFC division just to get revenge on the Cowboys. So we'll see how that goes. This your boy Z the Real here. I thank y'all for watching and subscribing. To my new subscribers, shouts out to you. To all my loyal listeners. Y'all stay tuned, stay blessed. I'll see you real soon.